There's a lot of things to talk about with the gentleman to my left, or the gentlemen to my left, although I don't often like to call Spencer Oliver a gentleman, even though he is, and I love him. But we love this fella, Billy Dibb, because, let me just put it in context, on Saturday night at the Ring Magazine Awards, you know, obviously we were both there, then you went back to the studio. I don't know if you saw Billy before you went back.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
You won at an amazing award ceremony where we were all rubbing shoulders with the good and the great, and you have become part of the good and the great.
Oh, thank you.
The Comeback of the Year award, because you came back from a horrific, vicious opponent called cancer. And you two have a very close relationship. We've had a close relationship for a long time. How did it feel to be recognised in front of that palisade of great stars from our sport?
Honestly, I just actually said this to Spencer a bit earlier. I said, I actually felt like boxing finally gave me my flowers. You know, for years I was a little bit bitter with the sport of boxing, and I just felt like I didn't get what I wanted out of the sport. But the other day when they announced me as the winner, and I stood up and I started to walk towards the stage, everybody stood up and was clapping. And I was so overwhelmed. I actually wanted to break out into tears because I was like, I couldn't believe it. You know, me can't hug me, Robert Garcia, all these fighters were shaking my hand. And then I finally got to the stage, and just before getting on the stage, Oscar De La Hoya gave me a big hug and told me how proud he was of me. And I was like, man, boxing finally gave me my flowers.
Do you know what? You know, you had an incredible career. You reached the highest heights. You become world champion, but undoubtedly the toughest fight of your life that you had was going through that terrible process when you got cancer, trying to for that recovery. You know, you showed that fighting spirit, right, where you know you took the discipline from boxing and used that in your recovery to overcome that horrible disease. And we were speaking through that time, weren't we? Like all through that time, we sort of become very close when you were going at your worst,
yes,
when you were very, very sick, and we were speaking on Twitter and we was touching, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, man, I'm starting to get really close to this guy. And I was thinking the worst. I'm not going to lie. I think that you know, the general consensus was that Billy's going to do well to get through this. Yes. You know, and I think that the comeback that you made, mate, was a miracle. It was insane, man. And you know, not just me, the boxing world, but the whole world was just so pleased that you made that solid comeback.
Yeah, you know, I often tell people it was 4 things that got me through. Firstly, it was my faith, my family, and the friendship, and then the love of the boxing community in the world. You know, like the world prayed for me. You know, I was like, everywhere I looked, everyone was like always like praying for me and sending me messages of hope and all these things. And so, you know, when you're going through something like that and you're getting all this love, you just feel like you got to persevere. And for me, it was like, there was one thing that kept me alive, and that was the fact that I said to myself, I got to walk my son to school for his first day of school. I got to walk him to school, and I can't let him down. And so no matter how tough things got, I always got back up. And my brother actually wrote on the wall, "Get up, you son of a because Leif loves you." It's from a Rocky quote. And that was the one thing that I always looked up at. Every time I was like, I can't do it, I can't get up. I look at that and said, no, I can't let my son down.
You've both been through catastrophic events in your lives, you know, as fighters. It's amazing that you're here as part of this, because obviously February the 22nd is an event in Saudi Arabia. Yourself and Amir Khan were the first two, I think, to fight in Saudi Arabia. 2017? 2018.
Yes.
Spencer's just highlighted your battle. Talk to us about the process of, it was bowel cancer, wasn't it?
It was,
So talk to us about the process and when it began, how you found out about it, what you were feeling, and then the process of your fight with it for whatever it was, a couple of years.
You wouldn't believe it. So I was in the gym one day and feeling completely fine. Nothing was wrong with me. And we were just on the verge of announcing a fight with George Kambosos. Wow. I had just got off the phone with Lou DiBella, and he asked me if I was interested in fighting George, and I said yes, 100%. He told me what was on offer, and I agreed. And so I got back in the gym, started getting to work, and then Billy Hussein, who was my trainer at the time, said, we're going to do some body sparring today. We don't usually do that, but we're going to do body sparring today. Look at how God does things. Like it was just unbelievable. And so I'm in the gym, and one of my gym mates punches me with a left rib right in the colon area. And I felt this excruciating pain, not like a winded pain, but like he tore something in my stomach. And I sort of like continued, and then I finished, and I was like, I got to rush to the bathroom. I ran to the bathroom. I was in the bathroom for 30 minutes with no result. And then I come out, and I was like,
couldn't pass anything.
no, I couldn't pass.
But you felt like you needed to.
I felt like I was gonna make a mess of myself, but there was nothing happening.
Yeah.
So I headed home, and you know, I just took some medication to try to ease the pain, and then the following morning I was on my knees, and I went to the I told my wife, I'm going to the hospital. I'm gonna ring the ambulance to come get me.
You just knew.
Yeah, there was something wrong, and I went to the hospital, and then when I got there, the doctor was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you anyway. I had a bit of a tantrum at the hospital. I was basically told the nurse that if she valued her life, she'd help me, because I was going to do something really seriously if you don't help me, and I was in excruciating pain. Nevertheless, they gave me morphine, which masked the pain.
Yeah.
Then I went home, and then the next day, my brother Muhammad, who's here with me on this trip, he rang me to say, what were you doing in the hospital yesterday? I said, forget that. If you don't help me today, I'm going to die. And he goes, what's going on? I said, there's something growing in my stomach, and I'm struggling to go to the bathroom, and I'm going to die. There's something wrong with me. And he said, stay on the phone. And he rang up a friend of his whose name was Dr. Pran, and he's a hematologist. And as soon as I spoke to Dr. Pran, I was like, Dr. Pran, please do not hang up the phone on me. And he's like, listen, I'm not going to hang up, because if you're in pain, and I know you've got a tolerance for pain, there's something wrong. He goes, get in the car and go straight to Norwest Private Hospital. And then we drove there. I was in a complete mess. When I got to the counter, they were like, I was like, hi, I'm Billy the kid. And she's like, oh, nice to meet you. Can you fill out this form? I was like, no, I'm Billy the kid. And Dr. Pran had told me, when you get there, tell him that you're my patient. I didn't say that because I was in so much pain. Anyway, I walked outside. I passed out. All these doctors ran out. I woke up in the ward, in the emergency ward, hours later. And doctor says, mate, doc, what's wrong? I said, there's something growing in my stomach. And he's like, what do you think it is? I said, listen, I don't know, but do you think I might have cancer? And he's like, you're not showing the signs of a cancer patient. And I was like, there's something in my stomach. Fast forward to the next day, they end up doing an endoscopy, colonoscopy. They woke me up and they said, do you want the good news or the bad news? I said, I'll take the bad news. He goes, the bad news is we found cancer in your colon area. He says, the good news is that we don't operate on Sundays, but because you're a call-in from a friend, we're going to operate. I said, well, thank you very much. And then we went ahead with the operation, and basically they said 2 days later, a doctor come in. His name was Abir Bhattacharyan, and he said, look, you know, we're going to need to do some chemotherapy to clean up what's happened. And I said, I'm not doing no chemo, because my wife, Sarah, had passed away from chemotherapy in 2015. That's right. So I was totally against it. And I told him I'm going to go home and I'm just going to look for some holistic things. He's like, look, you're cancer-free now. And, you know what I mean, like, you just pray that it doesn't come back. So I went home. That was on a Friday. The following Friday was like hell on earth. I'd never experienced pain like that in my life. I'd never experienced the pain that I experienced that night. Was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. They ended up rushing me back to the hospital because my wife rang the hematologist and he said, look, I'm so sorry. You know, his bloods have come back and the cancer spread. And I was basically riddled with cancer, and they took me back. And I remember the night in hospital, I vomited over 50 times. In the end, there was nothing left, and I was just dry reaching and like vomiting blood specks into the bag. Then a doctor finally walked past me, and I actually put my hands up and said, God, if you've opened up a place for me in heaven right now, take me, because I can't take it anymore. Please, or send somebody to help me. This nurse walks past me, and I was like, sir, please, I'm asking, I'm begging you, can you help me? And he goes, I can help you, but you got to help yourself. I need you to allow me to put a tube down your throat. And he goes, I know you've told the doctors you don't want to do it, but you got to take it. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. So he came back 2 minutes later. He had 2 nurses with him. He said, I want you to hold on to her hand as tight as you can. And when I tell you to drink from her, you got to drink. He put this tube down my throat. I swear my fingers and my toes were curling from the pain. I ended up swallowing this tube. And I tell you, I've got through vomiting close to 50 times. And he put the tube in and he's like, I'm going to relieve you now. And I was like, I don't know how you're going to relieve me. There's nothing left in my system. He ended up pumping about a bucket like that out of my stomach. It was a full bucket of whatever was in my stomach. He pumped it out. And then he goes, I'm just going to put you to sleep. And he put me to sleep, and I finally woke up like hours later. I was obviously very relieved. And then the next day, they wheeled me to the ward, and then my mum was with me, and we're sitting down, and then the doctor walks in, and his name was Dr. Bhattacharya, and he asked me if I knew what I had, and I was like, look, I have no idea what's going on. And he said, look, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you've got a life-ending cancer. He goes, you've got a cancer that spreads really, really fast. And he goes, and as I'm speaking to you right now, I think you're pretty much riddled.
So he told you it was terminal?
Yeah, he told me I was in a really bad way. And my mum, who, bless her, she was sitting behind me, she had just got through telling me there's nothing wrong with you. God would never hurt me. He wouldn't do this to me. And then I look back at her and she was in tears, you know. And first thing I said to the doctor was like, look, I can't die. And he goes, why? I said, I've got a son who's 2.5 years old. I've got to walk him to school in a couple of years' time. And he goes, you just found your reason to fight.
How long did they give you to live at that point?
He told me that I'd be done he goes, look, tops, he goes, you'd be 6 months. He goes, it could be 5 to 6 months. He goes, he said, if you leave here today and tell me that you're going to find holistic ways and you're going to do it, he goes, by the time you come back, I cannot save you.
I remember us having those mad conversations while you was going through this terrible time in your life. We were having those conversations. We were speaking back and forth, and you was talking about. It was a weird conversation because you were sort of like half accepting. Listen, it's in God's hands now, and what will be will be. And if He chooses to take me, then He chooses to take me. But it was just like this crazy sort of conversation. But you seemed at peace with where you was at, you know. And you're going, look. It's not out. It's now out of my hands. I'm going to battle as hard as I can battle. Yeah. But it's in the big man's hands now, and what will be will be.
Yeah. So I'll tell you actually what happened. I've got a mentor. His name's Sid David, and he's a mentor to me, and he's been mentoring me for a few years before I got sick, and then I didn't hear from him, and I was thinking, what's going on? Why is he not hitting me up? And so I sent him a message saying, Sid, I'm not sure if you've heard, but you know, I've been told that I'm going to die. And he said, listen, that's a great story you're telling me. He goes, but do yourself a favor and surrender yourself to God. Let Him take you on that journey. And the minute that I surrendered myself, I was at peace. I was like, man, if I die, I'm going to meet God in the best of ways. And I'm going to intercede for my family who I didn't get to live with in earth, you know. And he said to me, he said, when you find that peace of surrendering, he goes, you're going to heal. And I did, and I surrendered, and then, truth be told, on the day that I went to get the test done, to work out whether I was cancer-free or not, I remember waking up in the morning and saying to myself, if I'm not cancer-free today, I'm not doing no more chemotherapy, because I've never experienced pain like that in my life.
Can you tell us about how, obviously Spencer reacted, we were in touch, we did some podcasts and different things slightly later on. And I was trying to urge Nazim Hamid to come back and fight you, lose 5 stone or whatever it was. But how did the boxing world, people like Naz and Spencer, how did the boxing world react?
You know, it was actually the boxing world that got me through. And truth be told, I messaged Naz and said to him, Naz, I'm in a really bad way and I'm going to die. And he's like, what are you talking about? He rung me right away and he's like, I'm getting on a plane, I'm coming to see you. I said, listen, I don't want you to see me in the state that I'm in. And he's like, Bilal, what are you talking about? And don't say that. And you're not gonna die and all these things. And I'm not just. But it was the whole boxing world reached out. Like the whole boxing world was messaging me. You gotta, you know. I'm talking about Badu Jack, Andre Ward, Prince Nassim. Like the who's who fighters was messaging me saying, you got this, champ.
Because you'd lived in with Nazim, hadn't you, in Sheffield?
Yeah.
People don't know that maybe, that you were very close friends and you'd been around him and he'd been very much a mentor to you when you came to this country, when he was a big star.
Yeah, well, this is the 10th time that I actually land on UK soil. Yeah. And I'd spent a lot of time in Sheffield, a lot of time in Surrey, a little bit of time in London. This is my 2nd time in London, but the previous times was always in Sheffield and in Surrey with Naz, and you know, we trained together and hung out and did things. And Naz was my childhood hero. He inspired me to be who I am. And you know, I hung around the featherweight division for so long because I wanted to capture a world title in the featherweight division. And if you look back in my boxing bio and history, the first world title that I boxed for was the one that I really wanted, and it was the WBO Featherweight World Championship.
Just a final one. Mauricio Suleiman and the WBC were very helpful. We need to give them a mention as well. He was very helpful to you, wasn't he?
Well, I'll tell you something right now. When I was diagnosed with cancer, one of the people who reached out to me and was so motivating was Mauricio Suleiman. He actually said to me, he said, his exact thing was, we are at the convention right now. It was 2022. He goes, we're at the convention and we're all going to be cheering for you, Billy. And everyone got up and cheered. And he said, I'm going to see you at the next convention. And I said, I don't know about that. And he goes, listen, you beat this cancer and I'm going to award you with the WBC Champion of Life. And you'll be a champion for the rest of your life with the WBC, recognized as the WBC World Champion. And I was like, this is incredible.
Mate, well, I think we saw from the reaction at the awards that you was the star of the show there, and like how you captured everyone in that room because of your story was so inspirational. Forget the boxing and everything else. The biggest fight of your life, you conquered, mate, and you come through that. And I think that we saw from the reaction of the people, man, like you deserve that award more than anyone else. Comeback of the year, comeback of the century, mate.
So true what Spencer's saying. Just talk to us finally about, just close off that story of how you found yourself in remission eventually and what it felt like to actually conquer it.
It was the most incredible feeling in the world. Honestly, to be able to, I did so many recordings when I was sick for my son. Even my brothers don't know about him, but I used to do recordings for my son, wishing him happy birthdays and milestones and all these things. And the greatest feeling in the world was, Billy, you're in remission. The first thing that I did was I went upstairs and I deleted all of those videos from my phone.
Yeah, lovely.
Because I didn't want my son to ever see those, because I was in.
And you didn't want to jinx it.
Yeah, I was in such a vulnerable state at that time when I did the messages, and I just wanted to be able to put the like the stamp that that's it, this is done.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously the doctor told me that, look, this is something that could reoccur, but I said, listen, it's not going to reoccur, because mentally I'm so strong, and I'm not going to let this reoccur. I'm going to live my life clean. I'm going to look after my health. I'm going to continue to train. I'm going to get healthy again. And that's exactly what I did.
So inspirational, mate. It really is. Billy did, mate. That comeback is quite phenomenal, man. And we're so pleased that you're here. And we've got this big show, February 22nd, which we're going to see you at as well, mate. It's just good to have you back on the circuit. It really is.
It really is. And let me just ask you as well, just a bit of fandom. Who are you a fan of today? Who are you? I mean, you're not going to box again, are you?
Honestly, you know what?
Go on then.
I love the sport of boxing. I love it.
By the way, quickly, can we just talk about where was you? Butter box or something? Yeah. You was there, and there was you. There was Naseem Hamed, Amir Khan. That was insane to see.
It was unreal. Yeah, so it was Teofimo Lopez was there, and me and Amir Khan and Teofimo, we shared the ring and had a bit of a laugh and everything like that.
See you doing the pads, man.
And Tio kept on saying, why are you retiring? You still got it. You still got it.
Yeah.
I still do have it.
Mate, I saw the pads, and you do still have it. Trust me.
I do.
You look physically so robust now, and I'm so pleased.
Can you just put a few combinations on him? Show the people exactly what it is. Hit him with a couple of body shots or something.
No body shots. No body shots. Well, maybe I'd find out something. Maybe not.
Exactly.
Let me put this out there, right? So, I'm doing some great things now moving forward in my life, and I've written a really, really important book, which is called Boys Do Cry. It's about empowering young kids to know that it's okay to express your feelings. And I've got the support of His Excellency Turkey Sheikh, and I've got the support of Mauricio Suleiman, and I'm sure the boxing world is going to get behind it. But let's just put this out there. Turkey Sheikh, for the right offer, I'd have another one.
There you go, man.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that.
Wicked, Billy. Lovely, genuinely to
honestly,
see
mate,
you.
Yeah, come back the year, come back this century. You're a true hero to the sport, man.
So great to see you.
It's good to see you guys.
Cheers.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.